Welcome to those who are watching this to the one of our last couple events before the end of our Survivorship Week 2021. And it's been an incredible week with many different events that we've held virtually and have recorded. So everyone knows that they can look for those recordings on our webpage or on our other social media outlets that we can let you know about. Um, and share with your family and friends, and then know that these services and many of the different things and talents that our team has been able to give throughout the week are here in services of nutritional counseling, behavioral health counseling, yoga, healing therapy, financial counseling. And now I want to introduce you to Mary Fredlund. She is a cancer survivor. She is a former professor from the Maryland Institute College of Art, a successful, but just lost the words of what I was going to say about all your work with marketing, successful marketing type work in your career. And also with this journey, it sounds as though more art came out of you and prayer. And you've written and published books that speak to all of those things and to meaning that you found in doing some of the work that you're going to show us today, and how you really want to play that forward for patients so they can learn tools to help them in their journey of cancer and treatment, and then and what it is after the active treatment is done, in that phase of survivorship. So, thank you for being here. And you were
You-
in when we started talking about having this event and went through so many beautiful things with Lindsay and I. So I'm excited for you to do that in this way for all of our patients. So welcome, Mary.
Well, thank you very much. First of all, I have to say to everybody that gets to listen in on this is a terrific organization. St. Joe has been great. The Cancer Institute, the Cancer Support, the Wellness Center here. Every single person I know that if you come to visit here have been terrific in the kind of care that they give you and the kind of support. So I highly recommend you coming for a visit, just to even to say hello to these folks so that they get me through as well. I also have a background in massage therapy. I'm a registered massage therapist and all kinds of healing modalities. So part of what I've done from the art side, as well as the business and the sort of healing side, is really combine those in some way. First of all, I said 2 years ago, I went for a routine examination, and they found a lump about this big, the size of my fist, in my colon. 3 days later, I was at a surgeon. 3 days after that, I'm in the hospital for a colon resection. So all through done through St. Joe and physicians here. Then from that, first of all, you get the diagnosis, and I'm sure everybody that is a cancer survivor or knows someone in the family members that are a cancer survivor, you're scared, you're terrified, you don't know what it means. Cancer is a big C word. And the first thing I did in looking at a diary, I kept some notes on what is that word cancer? CANCER. And I circled, chokes me up, so I'll choke up a couple of times, so forgive me on that one. But the first thing I noticed is the first part of the word is can. I can. So survivorship week to me is all about I can survive this thing no matter how difficult. Well, I've gone through the chemotherapy treatments here, which those of you that have been through that are incredibly difficult in any kind of form, in any way. Again, not only the scare factor, but you don't know how your body's going to react to that. So in sitting there the very first time and talking to some of the nurse navigators and the doctors and saying, well, what's ahead? What do I do now? I said, I have to do something to put my mind and my body and my spirit all together in some way. And I was sitting in the chemo chair for the first time. And I said, I'm going to paint birdhouses. And the thing, well, why birdhouses? And excuse me, my nose is running. I said, well, birdhouses are this thing that transports us. I mean, a bird flies in it. Yes, I know that. But it's a healing place too. It's a place you go to live. It can be small, it can be big. And so today, even when we're saying building birdhouses, it doesn't necessarily mean we're going to build a birdhouse, but we could build a birdhouse. We could not physically build a birdhouse, but we still are emotionally building this birdhouse. We're painting it, we're creating it, we're making our lives full and rich because of this. So that's where birdhouses come from. And as I thought more about it, I wrote in my notes, which I'll have in front of me here, in a note journal, said, I'll paint birdhouses, transformational visions using color interactions which vibrate, syncopate, harmonize, heal, and inspire transformation with gratitude, thoughtfulness, personality, passion, and humanity of being, all of us, all great and all small. Paying it forward with one small act of kindness and a large dose of faith. And that's what started my journey in birdhouses. So what I have in front of me is the bag that I took in my chemotherapy. So this came with me in all cases. And I said, it's colorful, it's a little quilting bag, and I'll sit it on the side and make a bunch of noise for you. And in the chemo area, we had a chemo chair, has a little side paces. So I cut a piece of material that fit in one of the trays. So I'm putting that at the moment right in front of me. And I said, okay, I need some paint. So I go to the store and I get a little paint container. And I just grabbed some simple, and I sent out a list of paints, acrylic paints. Most of the time they're 50 cents a piece. Sometimes you get two for $1. That's still 50 cents in my book. And I got some brushes. And the brushes, I have a list, like I just got this one the other day, $3.62. This one was $2.59. I'm not talking fancy, I'm talking something incredibly simple. I like using a fairly wide brush like this because it's great for painting. Out of my box again, I brought with me in my bag usually 2 birdhouses. These birdhouses I often got at Michael's, AC Moore, any kind of craft place. I got most of them for 50 cents. I bought one the other day, it was $1.29, still a great deal. You can buy a big birdhouse, but I thought this I can take with me. And what am I going to do with it once I get it done? Well, the idea that I just told you is paying it forward. I'm going to give them away. How many are you going to paint? I don't know. I'll just see what goes. So I brought 2 birdhouses. Also in my bag, 2 little jars for water. One I just filled up. And most of the nurses helped me get some water to put in those. So I have my brushes, sometimes 3 or 6 kinds of paint, and I picked them at random. So I got some paint. I'll make some noise for you and sort of set that up. But in the cancer area, I had left them in this little tray and set them up like this. So that allowed me to have like a little palette if I wanted. I tried not to really mix the colors together because I said, well, I got enough colors for 50 cents, that's fine. So before I totally get into that, after I decided I was going to paint birdhouses, I said, well, I also need help and I need mental help. And how do I do that? And I heard about prayer circles, but I had never been in one. I didn't know how to join one. And my parents, who both also passed away years ago, I called their former church and I said, do you have a prayer circle? Someplace that I could ask for prayer, people to help me? And what can it hurt? Whether you believe in prayer or not, or believe in divine, it's like, we need help, we need help to get ourselves through all of this. And we can't do it alone. That's the biggest thing. We cannot do this alone. So they said, yes, they had prayer circle, but now COVID basically, I didn't finish my journey. So I have the colonoscopy, I have good chemotherapy, think everything's going fine. We got through the chemotherapy, difficult tasks, neuropathy, those kinds of things that you have to deal with. That's another issue. What does your body, you don't know how it's going to respond, as I said before. So you got to be sort of prepared. You deal with your snacks, you deal with your water. The thing I found with water, sometimes I just couldn't even drink it. So how do I get some kind of flavor in it that just helped? It's like I nourish myself in the same way I'm nourishing a birdhouse. Like I'm always coming back to that. This is my vehicle. This is my way to get it out. And so in the prayer circle, I'm not a writer, and I had not really written prayers before. So they asked how it worked because of COVID. They sent out an email saying somebody's asking for prayer. And I said, okay. So I'd sit at my computer and I'd read what they wrote. Sometimes it was a little note like somebody broke her foot. Sometimes it could be somebody's asking for prayer. You just didn't know. And I sat and thought about it for a while, and whatever came into my head in terms of words, I'm going to put that down. So after several of these, somebody said, why don't you put them in a book? The only other thing I did, I took my phone because I had nothing else to do, and I walked around the house and took pictures of flowers and plants that were just around my house. And they said, well, why don't you put these poems, they mean so much to us. Why don't you put them in a book? And I said, okay. So, where am I going to go with that? So there's a publishing it's a free source for you, but you still pay to print your books. It's called Blurb, www.blurb.com. For all the design stuff that I've done in the past, it's a really good source to publish your own stuff. You can get one copy. You don't have to have a lot, but you can put it out there to be purchased as well if you choose. They have templates, so it makes it easy to use. You can just load a photograph book, you can load a memory book. And that was another thing for many people I've said going through any kind of illness, keep a journal of notes. You don't know, what the notes are going to show up as. Maybe it's pictures. You don't necessarily want to get so personal unless you're only going to give it to your family or friends because you still want to have your own sense of privacy. But try something like that. It's like let it get out of there. So after I put this book together, and it's called The Hunt for Prayer, and it's based on the Hunt's Church, I would like to read you one of the things that I think was really important about today. It says, Dear Heavenly Father, may you strengthen our bodies that we may stand tall when needed. Provide us strength when we kneel, wisdom when we are called to answer, and faith to guide us on our journey each and every day. In the name of Jesus we pray, amen. And I put a little note down here for the journey. And this happens to be a picture in the Sistine Chapel or in Rome that I had taken at one point on a journey a long time ago that I thought was helpful. And I'll read you one more piece. And this is from Job, this part in the Bible. It said, For you would forget your trouble, as waters that have passed by, you would remember it. And this is my prayer. Prayers build the bridge over troubled waters and rough seas. May our voices float on the wind to reach the ears of God and find the healing touch for our friends and our family. Give each one strength in their hearts and their bodies, that we may all serve in his name, and may our footsteps help carry the spirit of life and fellowship to thank the Lord for his blessings. Amen. So no matter what faith you are or what belief you have, you can substitute the name Lord or Jesus or, divine angels, but knowing it's the spirit between us all. And for those of you that come here to the center for a massage or healing energy, I highly, highly, highly recommend that as well. You will begin to understand what the touch is all about and how touch itself heals our body and heals our bones and creates a new opening for our creative juices in some way. So thank you for allowing me to read that. So painting a birdhouse. I started with the birdhouse. I got my little bit of water here. I'm gonna choose a paint color at the moment. I shake the paint up, and I take my paintbrush, and I'm gonna see if I can switch this down just a little bit so you can see this. So this is basically this area that I had to work with in the chemo area, which means all you need is a little tea card at home, a little tea table, some little space that the moment you want to start, just think or keep notes. Maybe it's a person you want to give this to outside of yourself, but say, how might I use this little tiny birdhouse, this place of safety, this place like a little heaven, and I'm going to decorate it. So dip some paint in and easy paint. And the great thing about doing this, and you'll notice I'm just either dipping it in that, when I said you don't really need to mix any color, and the wood absorbs the paint very easily. You can even use the top. You know, once you shake it up, you've got some extra paint in there, and just smear the paint on. The kind of acrylic that I like is matte finish because it doesn't show brush strokes very easily, and it's easy to do, and it dries really quickly. And as I said, sitting in the Cancer Institute, I didn't want to make a mess. I didn't want to spill over everything. And I'm like, oh, that didn't take too long. And some of these don't come with hangers. Some of them have little hangers like this on top, which are great. So I put a little eye hook in it, makes it easy. And if I paint one side and turn it over, paint the other side. And the other thing I did, as I might be quiet sometimes, I would look around. Who are my neighbors in the cancer center? What are the nurses doing? So trying to keep my mind occupied. You could put headphones on, but I found the way we get through this, as I said before, is because we're in this together. And being together, saying, I don't want to invade somebody else's space. I just want to enjoy their presence. And so sometimes I would write in my book, I saw somebody, one of the nurses had long eyelashes. And the next person I might say, she had a beautiful gold coat on, you know, and look at that person. She's got, you know, I'll come down here. I said, look at that person. And she's got great shoes on. And how can I help do that? So I'm going to do this in stages. So this is a stage, and I can set it on the side, and I could start the next one. So I said I usually took 2 birdhouses with me. If I didn't want the same color, that's fine. But often I tried to use, again, this is in location. You can do it any way you want. Two birdhouses at a time using similar paints. But you notice I started with the roof, and this time I'm painting the bottom. And just, and it's great because this is a nice flat brush, and as I said, the acrylic paint dries really quickly. By the time I get this one painted, that one's ready to go. And I set down. Now I'm gonna come back up here for a little bit. So the other thing I noticed about painting wooden birdhouses, sometimes it really does absorb the paint very quickly, and I want to give it a second coat. Well, as I said, that's only a few minutes ago that I painted this one, and I'll just paint it in the opposite direction. Put the paint on, you know, like this way as opposed to up and down. It gives me a nice thick coat. And again, the paint is so cheap. It's not like it's a lot of expense doing it. And it gives you a really nice dense coat of paint. Okay. Now I'm just going to keep moving forward, and then my little water to rinse my brushes out once I have the paint done. And I don't leave the paint open. I put the top back. That way I know I'm not going to spill, you know, if I knock something over, I'm not going to spill a whole lot. Get my next color ready to go. And the other thing I should say, before I actually started, I'd get set up like I just showed you in the cancer center, but I'm having my port, you know, treatment done at the same time. So I have all those wires hanging on all of that. So it was a way that I didn't think about that. And again, those that have had a chemo treatment know sometimes that's painful. Sometimes that might be just difficult, or you know, you don't feel good in your stomach. And this way, again, I could transport my mind someplace else. And then this, I didn't even know I had this stuff on here. Another thing I'll quickly show you. After I painted a whole bunch of birdhouses, I actually put a birdhouse book together, and I'll get to that, but I just wanted to show you one picture quickly. So in this, and I know you, let's see, that is me, if you can see that. That is me sitting in the chemo center with all my stuff, just like I have here. I wore crazy outfits, like, you know, bright colors, and I happen to realize I have pink and pink on today. Didn't plan that at all. I have pants on that have butterflies all over them, just to make you feel bright, you know, make you feel happy. Guys, if you got any guys out there, same thing. One thing I find there is a big difference between ages, men and women, how we respond to all of this. But the thing that's so common is the idea that you can just feel the presence of each other. And some of the men that I not necessarily talked to, but saw, and I'll say met, when I started to give the birdhouses away, I'd certainly give them to the guys as well. And I had something to say to them, whether it's a prayer or just, hey, the strength is out here. Or I talk about coming up to the center for other kinds of healing and said, this is a transcendence. So it's about getting through and not making it a stigma, not being afraid of it. Breathing. I'll show you a couple. So this one, I painted a blue top, a light blue side, and I thought a purple bottom, and I might paint the other colors. So I said, all right, I still have my pink going here, or maybe I go into a different color. So I'm going to stick some purple. So there's purple going on to that. And it's the same thing. So if you'd follow along on this video or live, either way this is coming to you, it's not about watching, me specifically get into the detail. It's about you exploring whatever the surface is. Just put some paint on a surface. That's the first thing you're trying to do. Think about the color, think about, the surface, and you just put it on. And you don't have to be an artist. Believe me, you do not need to be an artist. Which brings me to why I paint with dots. This is solid color first, but I decorate with dots. From the background of the Aborigines and healing, the Aborigines, if you've ever seen any of the Aborigine paintings, they're all done with dots, one dot after another dot. They're incredibly intricate. You could look up on the internet and see some of the Aborigine paintings. And I said, they have a particular belief in their faith and how healing works, and their dots tell stories. And that was the other thing that came to me is I'm going to use dots because they tell stories. And I don't have to have a picture. I don't have to draw anything. I don't need to be an artist. I just am concentrating on the color. And I'm like, where do we go with the color? So I'm going to show you a couple of examples of, here's a pink birdhouse. And it's just dots. Where do you put the dot? Anywhere. It doesn't matter. You just put a dot. There's another one. There are lots of dots. Sometimes I had, so you got simple dots, complicated dots, dots around hole. Oops, there we go. Dots around a hole. If you really want to get fancy and saying, oh, I like flowers, well, here's flowers, and flowers are dots. That's all they are. I think that color might show up for you. So a brown dot in the middle and some yellow dots around it. It's all done with dots, just dots. So I'm going to show you that. So I'm going to take one of these houses, and some of these birdhouses that come in a variety of shapes. This looks kind of like a little church or a house church. I have some of them back on the shelf that I had painted. And here's one, so you can see I have a light blue middle, dark blue bottom, and blue roof. Again, it doesn't matter. And since I have my purple paint open, I'll just open it up. I have a little tiny brush, and I stick it in the cap. And here, and I put a dot. And I'm like, okay, there's my first dot, or where's my second dot? Sometimes that's all. Or I'll go, well, I'm thinking about stars, so I'm going to create just stars. Now, this is a tiny little brush. See that? But if I put a big gob of paint on it, I get a bigger dot. So that's okay too. So if you can, let's see if I can try to get this. So there's a dot. So that's my first dot. Then I go, okay, if I put a dot up here, a dot down there, so I have 3 dots. Well, maybe I'll put a dot over here and a dot over there. And one ended up a little smaller than the other, so that's more paint. So now I have, oh, that's could be a cross. It could be a flower. I don't know what it is, but all I know is there are 5 dots on there. So I go, all right, well, let's put another one over here. And the magic thing is if I take this same small brush and I sort of lean it a little bit, it makes a little bigger line. Well, that could be a petal. all right, well, let's try that. So I'll go, same thing, a little deeper, little deeper, little deeper. And you say, now I have that. They're kind of on top of each other. Does that matter? No, because I can fix it some other way. And I'm just going to do that a couple of places. So there's that. And let's see that. See? See, like 4 little things. And again, I'll add some other dots to give you an example. So I have a couple more little dots. And then that's enough of that color. So I'll close that up. And then here's another, this is an orange. And it may be only the colors that you like that you buy. Again, it really does not matter. If you want to get into technical things from a color, oh, that one's not, from a color theory standpoint, you can get a color chart and say, what colors go together? So here, I'm just going to, again, sporadically put some orange dots. See? So that is, let's see, hard to do this in both directions. Now I'm doing this quickly here. How do I do that when I want to meditate? When I want to be in the place where I start traveling in my mind? I just think. I might, again, think about a person or think about a song, and maybe I could put some music on, and I just look and paint, put a dot, put a dot. And the slower I do it, the more methodical I become, the more healing allows itself to go in. Because we know with cell structure, our body heals when our body relaxes, when it's not tense and when there's no stress that's involved. And that is the level of meditation. And when I say, what happened for me to get through the chemotherapy, to get through all the treatments, is just adding a dot and adding another dot. And I didn't have to think about anything else. I didn't have to think about dirty dishes. I didn't have to think about making my bed. I didn't have to think about like, how am I going to eat? It allowed me in the chemotherapy, especially in the 3 days where you go down and then you might come back up again. If I only got one dot down, that's all I got done that day. But it was the best thing that I know. I got out my paint, I got out my brush, I shook a little tube of paint, put a dot on, and I put 2 dots down. And every day, that's the way it was. And primarily in the hospital, I would try to get the solid colors down. And then when I come home is when I would do the dots. But in between time, after I started making so many, I did lots of them at home after my treatment was over. So what was I trying to do? I was trying to give my body permission to heal from within. The birdhouse, giving permission to heal from within. I'm painting an outside, I'm painting with color, I'm painting life, I'm painting simple surfaces, transporting them with dots. It was easy to follow, like painting dots around a circle, painting dots around a lid. It didn't have to go into patterns. It didn't have to go anything in any way in particular, just the way you could feel. And if you put 10,000 dots on, that's okay too. And one day if you only put 2 dots on it, that's okay also. I said I needed to learn to let go so I could live. I needed to trust in my divine spirits. I needed to protect myself from the ills of drugs and the ills of just emotions. And I needed a way to show others, and that's what I hope I'm doing with you, show others how to transport yourself, how to heal yourself, how to take care of yourself. Do we have any questions that at the moment. And if you do, if you're online and you can send them, that's great. And if not, I'll keep on going. I'm just going to pause for a couple of seconds, if that's all right.
Sure.
Right?
I was particularly struck, you know, I know you throughout your talk so far, you've said, you don't have to be an artist and it doesn't have to be perfect. And I think when anyone, who's not a full-time artist is drawing, they're like, oh yeah, right, coming, from the, somebody who might be really good at art, you're like, but I really can't draw. Forgive me, I can't remember the exact wording, but you started talking about the dots, and at one point you just said like it could be a little dot or a big glob. Who cares? And I don't know why, but it just gave me this sense of release. And I'm like, who does care? Like it doesn't have to be perfect. And I think that's
Mm.
what's so healing about this approach to relieving your mind and allowing your mind and body to relax, because at the end of the day it doesn't matter. You're doing it so that you can heal, and you don't have to show that birdhouse to anybody. It can just be for you. And I so applaud you for those words. They were so helpful.
Well, thank you for that. I will follow that with here's a little birdhouse, and I had intended to give these away. And I, the first place I gave them were to my nurses, and up here at the wellness center as well.
Mary, I have one.
She has one, see? And I decided, like this particular person I saw was a nurse, and um, it has a wave on it because she lived near the ocean and she loves the sound of the waves. And to me, that's incredibly healing as well. And she also played bingo. So the roof it's like a bingo card for me, and there's little dots and numbers in here. But I put this tag on them. And when I gave them away, and I'll read this to you because I hope the person asking that or saying that, I appreciate that. I said, this is a quote from Jay Barry. The reason birds can fly and we can't is simply because they have perfect faith. For to have faith is to have wings. And that piece really struck me. So I put it on this transparent piece of paper. And then so that people finding this might realize why I'm doing this. And I got something from the Bible that said, look at the birds of the air. They do not sow or reap or store away in barns, and yet your heavenly Father feeds them. Are you not much more valuable than they? And that struck me. So I added that. And then I said, well, why do I paint birdhouses, or why birdhouses at all? And I said, why birdhouses for patients receiving treatments and caregivers is to remind us to have faith and to be mindful on our journey. So that's a little tag that I put here. But in the inside, I did exactly what you were saying. I wrote, and again, I'll quickly read this, why I was giving these away and why I was doing it. It said, I'm inspired, mesmerized, and transported by the Aboriginal people and artists that do not have a written language. That's also really important. They don't have a written language, where their dots are iconic symbols that can be linked together with color to create meaning, tell stories, and depict a journey. In no way am I trying to create any work or form of art at that depth of their understanding, but what I do draw upon is how a single dot transports my mind into a form of meditation. That's the key. And a dot in my world of beginning and creation of art is the moment of point, purpose, direction, and intention. And if those words are the 4 words that can lead me to live and live longer and live healthier and live kinder and compassionately, and all of us in any kind of illness or sickness, then I have done my job. And I hope all of us have done our job in being survivors. And then I also said, I'm just painting little birdhouses from a craft store. And I like to study the color because I like looking at it. And I will go back. I have a few more minutes, I think.
Yes.
So the birdhouses that I painted and gave away, mostly to the caregivers and including my oncologist and nurse navigator, and as I said, the people at the wellness center, I decided, well, if I made one prayer book, I'm going to put them in a book too. So this one on the outside, it's called Intuitive Visions, Nesting Among the Wings of Angels, a personal journey transcending chemotherapy. And it has basically my story in there of really what I told you of being diagnosed and what it was like going through all of that and why the birdhouse in the process. And this was the birdhouse I painted for Dr. Schrader. And it is the colors like the University of Maryland. But what was also important I did for them and the other nurses in here is I came up with a heading and a quote and then some notes from my journal. So the notes from my journal for him, I said, he puts his heart into practice with patients under the roof of a medical system. I don't know how many may know him as their physician or their oncologist, but he's got all those numbers in his head and he understands all this like technical stuff, and he's interesting for me to watch, like I like to observe him, and he's delivers news with the most compassionate care, I think. And so I found a quote by William Osler, who was also a hospital person, and it said, "The good physician treats the disease. The great physician treats the patient who has the disease." So that was an important quote for me. And I'll just skip to the coincidences. I'll pick out one here. There was this one here. The heading I put called Teams of Support. And the person that I noticed, this was a patient. It said, an engaging sports team supporters. Every time I saw her in the chemo area, she was talking about whether it's the Ravens or the Orioles or this team or the hockey team. So she was all about sports. And I didn't ever engage physically with her, but I could hear her conversations. And she had a good spirit and a passion for uplifting teams of compassionate, life-saving practices. And I thought, that's who she is. And those were my notes in my journal that I put in here. And the quote that I found for her, I said, none of us, including me, ever do great things, but we can all do small things, small dots, remember, with great love. And together we can do something wonderful. And who wrote that? Mother Teresa. None of us, including me, ever do great things, but we can all do small things with great love, and together we can do something wonderful. And I hope that's what everybody in this, certainly this week and through the Wellness Center here, are discovering, that we all are the little small dots, all participating in a great big way to make a small meaning have large effects. And sorry, I'm still emotional about all these. And there's one more here that this was a patient who was crocheting in a chair. And I observed her and I said, I noticed the colors of the paint. Remember, I said, I choose this paint just by the selection of paint, just grab 6. I don't choose the color, I just grab some and it's whatever's in my bucket that I work on today. And that day I chose these colors. And I looked down as she's crocheting and it said, my journal was colors of paint dancing their way into balls of yarn, linking their threads into a blanket of patterns made for another. So she's crocheting all these hats and things for people. And they were the same colors as I brought in that day. So the irony in that. And I found a quote for her. And the big headline says, serving the mission of healing. She was there healing herself and doing work to heal others, which allows us to heal tenfold. And the quote is, let my soul smile through my heart, and my heart smile through my eyes, that I may scatter rich smiles in sad hearts. Yogasanda wrote that. How much time do I have left here? Can you let me know that?
It's 1:45, so you're fine. You're fine. This is beautiful.
Anybody else have any thoughts or questions at the moment that I might
Well, we don't see any
answer?
questions in the chat.
Okay.
But as you had mentioned, which was very gracious, if when people are watching this, they should know that they can always email or call the Wellness and Sports Center, and we will have a direct number to you, Mary, because I don't want you to not be around anymore than you don't have to be, because this has been incredible. And I can see such a possibility for future work with you if that's something you would want to do to, have a workshop where everybody is together, because the messages that you weave within this tutorial, in a sense, have been just absolutely wonderful. Thank you so very much. The dots and the Aborigines and how they putting those together can create a message and a transformation. Really fabulous.
Well, I'll read you a few more things if that's okay.
Please.
And again, I'm always reflecting back to the birdhouses, so that in this, as I said, this birdhouse book, you can view this actually online. So as anybody wants to paint something, you don't have to buy the book, you can see it online. And still go to www.blurb.com and put in either my last name, Fredlund, or into the search bar, and it should come up that way. And you can turn through all the pages. But each birdhouse is totally different. And it's just they're all done with dots, as I said before. So if you feel like you don't have any inspiration to put a dot down, look, I mean, there's nothing, nothing proprietary about any of that at all. So I hope it inspires people that way. So at the end of my treatment, and then came Christmas, since then I've also had 2 liver surgeries. And so I'm still on this path of, staying healthy, and how do I keep healing, and what else can I do? I painted several hundred birdhouses, and there was a picture in the book like this, and literally several hundreds. And I brought them in at Christmas time in a great big basket like this. And a friend of mine and we love to sort of dress up in costumes. So we came in with elves hats and Christmas bells, and she even had elf shoes on, the great big shoes with the front turned up with a big bell on the top of that, and gave them all away. And each time there was the one lady that was sitting in the front lobby, and most of us that have gone through chemo, they say, well, we can't paint our nails and things like that. And she was sitting there, and I noticed, her nails were real shiny, and they were, beautiful and sparkly. And I said, wow, you've got all your nails. She goes, I just had them done. She said, it's the first time I had them done since my treatment was over. And she was thrilled to death about it. And I had taken a bunch of the birdhouses that for people that I didn't know who they were going to go to, and they were just in tissue paper, and this particular place, besides this big basket, and I had them sitting down in a bag, and I reached in and I don't know what I'm grabbing, and I said, oh, well, this is for you. And she said, for me? And I said, yes. I said, this is for you. It turns out that the color of her nails and the outfit that she had on exactly matched what was on the birdhouse that I gave her. Completely unrehearsed, never met this woman in my life. And she cried and went into tears, and she was so excited about seeing this, and we started celebrating that it was her last chemo. She had just gotten through the chemo. And I said, so that kind of thing of coming in and giving a simple 50-cent birdhouse, even if it's $2, a way to somebody else to see the pleasure of that. The little kids that I saw, who sometimes it was their parents going through chemo, and sometimes it was little kids that I saw in chemo. The same thing. They got excited even seeing me painting sometimes, or what are you doing? And they'd ask all kinds of interesting questions. And I painted them for little kids. It doesn't matter. It just matters that you were willing to have that level of interaction and healing of yourself and your own spirit with somebody else's spirit, and to give them up. And I know many other, you probably had many of this maybe through this week in terms of survivors. We often try to find some outlet to help others, to help ourselves. So anything I highly recommend. This is a great way to do it. Masks, when we got into masks, I was making masks and giving them away, and the same thing. It's that sometimes we can't afford to do that, but it's simple. I've seen people painting on stones, make dot stones. It's okay too. It doesn't matter. So that was the other part of this ending in this book. So I will read this part to you. I began painting more birdhouses day and night, each unique until the numbers reached 100 and above. My dear friend Kathy helped me tag, wrap, and arrange them in festive baskets, and with holiday treats, outfitted in her holiday best, as I was telling you. I was joined by my cousin Naomi. We three journeyed over here to the cancer center. A birdhouse blessing was gifted to each and every patient, person we saw walking in the hospital, anywhere from the Cancer Institute and the medical center. We gave these birdhouses away. They were created on my journey transcending chemotherapy. This sample of book of birdhouses begins with a quote by J.M. Bear and a verse by Matthew 6:26 from the Bible. It is with great gratitude to acknowledge all of the wings of angels I have nested among. To all of the medical staff, healthcare workers, technicians, support staff and services, service leaders, religious leaders, prayer circles, and messengers of all sorts everywhere, I give my sincere thanks and blessing. And to all my family members, friends, and fellow travelers who helped get me through with their prayer and love, I say, birds fly, and so do you. Thank you, and thank you for listening and your participation. And I have one more prayer to end with. This is my second prayer book. And this was a photograph of an inside of a barn in the steeple. And I wrote, the light shall shine out of darkness and keep our spirits unbroken. And then this, again, just pictures around the house, even pictures of cicada, you know. And I'll end with this. Dear God, sometimes we don't know how to pray. Sometimes we don't know what to say. Some days our words may be scrambled. And those of you who have gone through chemotherapy, we always say we got chemo brain, you know, when we can't even remember our own name. So be blessed with that. Today, I pray for wisdom to guide my words for others in need of prayer. May you forgive my humble attempts to reach your healing hands, such that others may find peace at your command. Amen. Thank you. Amen.
Thank you, Mary. Absolutely wonderful. Thank you. And, you know, you talked so well about this being something that you did when you were starting your treatment and obviously what you did throughout your treatment. We meet more patients here in the Wellness and Support Center that are done their treatment and are struggling with how to regain sense of where they are now and who they are now. And I really think that this is powerful, you know, to be able to work through a transformation of their recovery and their getting back to what is themselves in whatever way that that might be at that where they are in their recovery and after their treatment. So I just think this is invaluable because again, you can do it if you're aware enough and your self-awareness is amazing. So to be able to set out on the treatment and the journey of that with all of these tools ahead of time is incredible and not sure that everyone is able to be at that level. So if they're not while they're in treatment, but you know, now they can have this lesson from you of the transformation, the giving back, the way to express yourself, the way to help your mind get off of a focus that's not serving it. You know, how difficult the treatment can be, or how maybe you have some long-term side effects that are staying with you. And when you are able to transport and transform yourself through work like this and giving back and finding a medium of art to work through can really help the body have time to heal and the mind not be overly focused on it so that you are just in a state of torture in body, mind, and spirit. So,
What's really important, and basically what you said as well, is we often forget when we're in the treatment, as you said, to seek additional treatment for the treatment, you know. And there's so many studies that are out there, especially from the massage standpoint, of the energy work or the healing work or yoga or acupuncture that help us get through the treatment. And that people don't necessarily realize it because they're so involved in thinking about treatment, that they don't see the other alternatives. I know with essential oils. I mean, anything that you can do, and like I said, anybody that's watching this or talk to other people that are cancer survivors or people that are just getting diagnosis, help them seek other avenues, help them seek a massage, and it doesn't have to be an expensive massage. And some of this you can even learn to do parts of it on your home or putting oils on your own feet. I mean, that was a huge thing with neuropathy on feet, is just rubbing your own feet, to make your feet feel well, or coming here and having, people hear the word energy work done. Ooh, that's too hocus pocus, but it's not, just get your friend to come with you, let somebody take you by the hand to show you that way, because they've learned this at places like Hopkins too, with kids, that having an essential oil or a smell that you love helps the treatment go through your body much more easily, much more quickly, much more, much more sense of healing and opening your body to heal. So again, I'm trying to feed off of what you just said, is like, seek it during, seek it before any diagnosis. Seek it, just like me, going through a regular colonoscopy. Have a massage before you have that done, have a massage after you have it done. Just, you can't get enough of it. Your body needs it all. And in our day and age, we need as much healing as we can. So.
And it's essentially, and with the energy work, with healing therapy sessions, it's the idea of turning off the stress response or helping to balance the stress response. And that therefore makes the treatment more effective. The, going through a procedure easier, and the body just does receive what it needs more appropriately without being shut down or having inflammation or having, everything kind of haywire. So yeah, it all just comes together really nicely when you can help the body be in a less critical state of stress or chronic state of stress.
Yeah, absolutely. Increasing the vibrational level. That's what color also does. I mean, why people paint rooms. It's difficult for me to see a lot of rooms now in gray, or the trend is gray, because gray it's a calming effect, but it's also a depressing effect. It's the absence of color and the presence of no color, so and all color. So it's a really difficult stress place. But like the reds, the yellows, the blues, any color that you can pick up, just notice if it just makes you feel good, or the sun shines on it, just use color and put the dots down, use the color. Yeah.
It's wonderful.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you so very much. And
Pleasure.
we will put links up to Blurb and to ways that people can find your books to look at or to purchase, maybe as gifts for others.
And never hesitate to call me, email, that's fine. I'd love to talk. So thank you.
Anything else?
I don't, there are lots of things I can say, but that's,
All right. Well,
we're good.
thank you, Mary, very much.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thanks, everybody out there, and stay well.
Bye-bye.
Bye.